Good morning. It is Monday, December 15th, 2025. Thank you again for stopping by today. And today's story is on the midnight train to Georgia. There's a song performed by Gladys Knight and the Pips, and I think I'll play it in the background. I think it came out in the early 70s. And it tells a story about a young man who leaves the south of Georgia. He goes to Los Angeles and he tries to be a successful entertainer. And LA proved too much for the man. He couldn't make it. So he's leaving a life he's come to know. So things were not bad, they just wasn't as big or as great as he felt he deserved to be. And he wanted to be a great entertainer. He wanted to be a star. And it's very unusual that this song hasn't really been visited by too many people in social media, because it would tell this new generation that's up and coming of the dangers of wanting to be a star. There can only be so many people on the stage. There has to be people in the audience willing to pay those tickets for these people to be on stage. And those people that are in the audience, I would say that they are more successful in their accomplishments because they're going to live in a world where there'll be more of those people than there will be of these superstars. And they don't live too bad a life. The life of the ordinary person is not as boring or as sad as people would like to think. Because I would say I'm not a superstar, but I've lived a pretty good life. Even though I was frustrated with the formation and building of my family, I really didn't build anything. I didn't build anything, you guys. Because if I built something, it would be standing tall right now. It would be something that I could be proud of, but I'm not by any means proud of what I built, because it was for nothing. It ended in divorce. So for you guys to think that success is going to be fame and fortune, success is going to be really, what did you build that is going to outlast your own life? And I've built many homes with my two bare hands. I've worked alongside other men that have built homes. And I am definitely satisfied with what I've ultimately sold to someone as the final work product of my hands. But the greatest achievement, I've been a miserable failure because I wasn't able to make a family. And I would just say that the standard for me was set by my parents. And this notion that the new generation has of saying that, well, the previous generation dropped the ball. They screwed us up. No, they didn't screw us up, because by the time you're 15 years of age, many years before you become an adult, being able to make your own decisions, you start getting a taste of what it means to be responsible, to be accountable. And it's at a point where if you see somebody doing dumb stuff and you continue the legacy of doing dumb stuff, you can't blame anybody. Or you come up with a whole new set of dumb things to do. You know, it's not the previous generation's fault. It's your fault. Because you saw clearly before you got the reins of power in your hands, but you chose to be lazy and not do anything to try to pull it back and bring it back into balance, where instead of having all of this discussed about the previous generation, you can be proud of what you and your generation was able to accomplish. As an example, when I looked at my father's handiwork, he was able to build a family until the parting of my mother's death. He was able to instill in me the value of hard work and the value of sacrifice. He taught me how gladly you should look forward to having a wife and being in a position where you can provide for her. And not just provide, willingly share. This is the thing that the modern women don't seem to want to appreciate from men. The only thing that they would say concerning men is negativity, and it's almost femininity, all good. Patriarchy, bad. Everything that you can try to associate with the bad in society, patriarchy, toxic masculinity. You don't want a man to be toxic, but when you're being raped and attacked in the street and the police happen upon you, you're going to want a hardcore dose of that masculinity. You're going to want those cops to break out the batons, the guns, the everything to stop this violation upon you. But that's patriarchy. And now we see in public the spectacle of the woman being attacked by some guy trying to steal her phone. And her boyfriend kind of steps to the side and he allows everything to just continue. Go ahead, take her phone, take her phone. And it's only some stranger on a motorcycle. He gets off his motorcycle and runs to rescue the damsel with his dumb behind. And that's how the thing gets resolved. And another man comes to help. Now, you guys are going to say, no, that's what they're supposed to do. No, that's patriarchy, ladies. No, that's patriarchy. That's old-fashioned thoughts. You guys are strong, and if you're strong, be strong. If you're independent, you don't need a man. You guys should be voting in and hiring more cops that are female. We don't need these men to be out here protecting us. And live with the consequences. Be willing to live with the consequences. So you got to be able to see how things went down as much as that was what I was trained to be. I was trained to be a man. And a man is protective when it's time to be protective, and he doesn't take a bunch of crap when somebody's trying to lay down some crap. I don't buy into this strong, independent female. Strong, independent has led all three of my nieces. Well, I have a sister, she has 3 daughters. So talking about those 3 young women into a state where they have lost the ability to actually get married because their mother, my sister, poisoned the well of their mind. And the reason why I know this, I inadvertently got a Facebook post where the oldest of my nieces posted something where she's basically said that she's on her way to success, and the reason why she knows it is because she's still alive. And it wasn't the post of what she said that I thought was telling. It was that along with this post, she posed a picture where she's almost like looking in the mirror and admiring her beauty. And she's a beautiful woman. Don't get me lying. She's a very beautiful woman, but she's got a bull nose ring, which to me is very unattractive to men. But she's got this attitude that she's acknowledging and recognizing that beauty is valuable. It's valued by the culture, but why is it valued by the culture? Because men value beauty. So why are you posting this video on YouTube where you're just admiring your beauty? So So I tried to talk to her over many years and to get her attitude to look forward to having a husband and being a wife and a mother. And she totally rebelled against it. I'm not a baby making machine. Did a video on that already. She's more a baby making machine than she's anything. But now she's been damaged. And when she realizes whose fault it is that she was the way she is, it's going to be on her mother. But her mother was so strong in her leadership, she made sure that these young ladies, these developing young women, would never hear an opposing argument, or at least hear something from an uncle like me that really demonstrated my undying and unwavering love for them. Undying and unwavering, even to this day. But I had to leave them all alone because, what do they say? If you keep talking to people and they don't want to listen, who's the idiot? Is it you or is it them? Eventually, you get tired of talking, and you just gotta let the world kick them in their ass. And when the world kicks these young women in their asses, they're gonna be crying tears of woe. But I'm thinking half of the problem might be solved once they become sexually active. And I'm not encouraging or looking forward to hearing the story of them having premarital sex, because I think sex is a wonderful thing to experience, but it should be in the confines of marriage first. But that's for women that are about being serious in life. For you to take on being casual in the sexual game, it doesn't make sense. Because casual versus formal, think about it, ladies. Casual versus formal. You don't go to a formal black tie event wearing flip-flops and Bermuda shorts and a band top. You don't do that. You wear a nice flowing dress, and hopefully it's tastefully designed to not reveal too much of your feminine attributes, but it'll be enough to where the men and the people at the event will say, "Ooh, she looks so elegant. She looks so beautiful." That's the difference. So how do you transform something that you've known only as a casual situation? How do you make it a formal situation? I don't see how that's even possible. Because the same type of clothing that you would wear at a casual event is not even to be regarded as on the list of a formal gathering. It just doesn't make sense. But getting back to this midnight train to Georgia, she basically said, or the woman telling the story, she went with him to LA, followed him there, had his hopes and dreams, and eventually the world kicked his butt to where he had to get back to reality. I gotta go back to Georgia, to a life that I once knew. The life that he once knew was something that he could be satisfied with, but he had hopes and dreams, and eventually his hopes and dreams were shattered to where he had to go back home, and he had to go back to just having the expectation of living an ordinary life. And the world is such a big, beautiful, wonderful place. There's so much room for people to have a wonderful, ordinary life. I mean, I read the biography of J. Paul Getty, and he had lamented over being one of the richest men on the planet because he said there were so many people that he employed, where when he would happen to go through the offices and see them at their desks, he would see pictures of their wives, pictures of their children. And then at some of the social gatherings that his company and the companies that he owned had created, he would have a chance to talk to these people. And they would be talking about their children and how wonderful they're doing, and how years later the kids are now in university, and some of them have graduated to become professional people. And my wife and I, we took a trip, and we look forward to retiring one day to where we have this world tour plan. We're going to do some world traveling together. All of these things are only possible when you rely and focus not on what you want, but you focus on what the group wants. And certain groups are to be cherished and to be exclusive. They're not to, you can't allow anybody to interlope into those things. So I just hope I didn't go off too far off the topic here, but all I can tell you guys is that we're at a point where we need to stop dreaming so much and we need to come into reality. And if you do have a dream, put a deadline on it, because this is the thing that to me was the most valuable part of that song. He went to LA. He wanted to be a star. And when he finally got to the point where this ain't gonna happen, as much as I've tried, many doors I done went through, and nobody seems to see what I thought I saw in myself. And so he pawns his car, he pawns his hopes for a one-way ticket back. He wasn't gonna go back to LA and try it again later. He basically had a reasonable, sound decision to say, this is it, game over. And I'm very proud to see so late in the game my 32-year-old son taking my advice, because at one point he told me he was going to be a psychologist, and he got his degree in psychology. He started and finished his degree. I wasn't able to do that, so he's got one up on me in that regard. But I didn't need that degree to be able to buy several properties before my 30th year of life on this earth, and I was able to build and try to build a family. I just wasn't successful in that. But comparatively speaking, my father was successful, and he didn't have a degree either. He married a woman that was loyal, faithful, and dedicated to the building of her family and being very protective of her children. So protective that she made sure that all four of us went to private school. How many of this new generation of educated, successful women can boast of, one, being married, two, having kids that they can be proud of, and three, having sent them all through private school from first grade through university? None of us had to pay a dime to go to university to get an education. All four of us got a full ride on our parents. My mother just didn't live long enough to see all of that come to fruition. I dropped out, joined the fire department, then I dropped out to try to become a medical physician's assistant, and the hope for that was to ultimately become a medical doctor, but it didn't pan out. I got into construction, and the rest for me is history. But all of the while that I was doing these things, I'm looking, and I'm being very introspective, and I'm learning, and I'm seeing, understanding things that only time can teach. And I'm more than happy to share this. For me, none of you guys should be saying, why is this man telling us all these things? I'm telling you all these things because, one, it's not too late for you guys, depending on what age you are, to learn from the mistakes that I made. You know, I partnered up with a man who didn't make too many mistakes in business. And because he didn't make too many mistakes, he's been able to show me where I've been falling short and where I've been screwing up. And he's saying, you got to stop doing this and you got to stop doing this. And then you got to start doing some of these things that you see me doing. And I've been a wonderful parakeet. It's nothing bad with, being a parrot to somebody who's successful at doing what they do. So anyway, I think I've gone on a long enough rant. We're at 19:24 minutes. 19 minutes, 24 seconds. I really just hope that you guys start setting time limits on these dreams that you have. And if you fail, go back home. Get that, sell your hopes, pawn your car, get that one-way ticket back. And hopefully you can find those people that genuinely loved you and cared about you, that were successful And I mean successful in understanding where they went wrong or what they should have done and heeding their advice. Don't just listen to them talk and ignore what they're telling you. Because I'm telling you, I did so many things for my extended family and my immediate family that they can't say I should have done more. Because the minute they tell me that, I easily analyze, what have you been able to accomplish that's on the same level as me? Were you able to make enough money to where you could get your own place? And not only get your own place, but to buy another place that's going to serve as home to other people. And you're going to provide a nice place to where people will be happy to pay you monthly rent to do that. If you say no, then you're not even worthy of having a conversation with me, because you don't know how difficult and how much sacrifice it took to be able to get there. I had a situation, and then I'm going to part with this. My nephew, we were having these family discussions, and he never really made a lot of money doing the things that he did. And his rationalization, it was a rationalization, period. He says, money doesn't make a man. And I says, well, how do you know? You've never made enough money to understand what that means in terms of being a man. Did you work and set aside enough money to where you could buy a car, a motorcycle, and be able to travel and be able to do all of that while simultaneously setting aside enough money to buy properties that you're going to ultimately rent out to people? No, you don't know what it means. So don't you dare tell me what makes a man and what doesn't make a man. And to this day, he's still probably living in the same apartment that him and his girlfriend occupied since she graduated from high school. And that was an apartment that was set up by his girlfriend's father. So I'm laughing at the ignorance that's spouted out by the younger generation, and how they're going to blame us for their misery. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to say anything, because in the same rebuttal that I had with that same nephew, I told him, I says, you know what I would have to do to get to your levels, son? I would have to give up so much of my education, so much of my skill and knowledge, that you would barely recognize who I am. But what would it entail for you to get to my level? How much education that you'd have to study to do? How much sacrifice in putting to use those skills on a day-to-day basis where you're serving your fellow man? I'm telling you guys, it took a lot of sacrifice, and I willingly and did it. I lost many hours of sleep after working 14 hours. I'm having to go to junior college to learn these trades that I have. HVAC. You know, I lived in Lancaster for a few years, and during that time, I spent 2 years taking HVAC courses there, and I had to study, but I also had to feed and my family. So I'm driving down from Lancaster Monday through Saturday, consistently Monday through Saturday. Rarely did I get one day off, and many times I literally had to stay down in LA and sleep in my truck. I stayed with co-workers and people that were in the trades for a time as well. People were very generous in giving to me, and I was very generous in giving. I never took advantage of anybody who welcomed me into their home. But I said, you would have to spend probably 2 lifetimes at the rate that you are willing to work to just get to the level that I had already reached by the time I was 30 years old. So I would just say to the generation that wants to relieve themselves of any guilt of the misery of their own lives, just think about what was going on in the home that you grew up in. And do you have the capability to match on any level what you experienced as a child? And if you can't, then it's not the previous generation that dropped the ball. It was you guys never picked it up. We were handed the ball by being given good educational opportunities. For those that go to public school, don't feel bad that you went to public school. The government gave you free education. We've got libraries. Those are the most underutilized institutions in the black community. Because if it was the other way around, nobody could complain about the schools being without the proper resources. The school doesn't necessarily have to give you the resources of a laptop and a computer, because your real learning comes from learning how to read, how to write, and to how to do mathematical computations. That was the big three: reading, writing, arithmetic. You gotta learn how to do those. If you learn how to do those, it's downhill from there. You can learn whatever you want to learn. You can learn calculus, psychology. You can learn whatever you want to learn if you get those things understood. But anyway, I think I kind of did a little bit of taste of everything on this one. I just hope you guys will stop trying to blame previous generations and give yourself a deadline for this dream, these hopes you have for the future. Because if you continue to dream, by the time you're 30 years old, you're going to go back to doing what those wise people in your lives told you to do from the very beginning. My son is getting into something totally different from what he thought he was going to be getting into. And I told him, I said, son, I don't know too many things, but I've met people that know far greater than I know. I knew a gentleman who sold insurance, and he became a broker, and he amassed a great fortune. White dude. And he owned a house in Newport Beach where I actually lived for like almost 4 years. And he knew the insurance industry to the point where he's a multi-millionaire many times over. And he just became mentally broken down, and he got hit with Alzheimer's. And I just lost touch with him because of his health degenerating into nothing. But I was looking forward to him mentoring me and to teaching me what he learned all over those years to be an insurance agent. And that just didn't happen. It fizzled out. And so I know that there are other people in other industries that make far more money than I make in construction. So, but what I do know is you can make good money in the construction industry. And now I've hitched my wagon to a gentleman that knows how to really make a lot of money in the construction industry, almost to the same degree and level, if not greater, than that guy who was an insurance broker. So I'm going to shut my mouth, open my ears, and set my hands to do whatever my mentor commands me to do, because so far, so good. I've been receiving a profit. I've excelled beyond what I was capable of doing on my own. And it's taken a lot of pressure off me. It definitely has. It's enabled me to really maximize my talents and skills in a way that I'm now in a structured system where I don't have to worry about all of the details of the bookkeeping, all the details of the study of the law, and all of these things. That's something that my mentor is really good at. He's just not good at the field work. He's good at evaluating the field work, but he's just not good at doing it. So many jobs he's come to the field to take measurements to see if I'm meeting his design tolerances. And so many times I was off, but I'm getting better. And that's the beautiful thing about mentorship. You don't know what you're doing, if you're doing it good or not, by just striking out on your own to do something that you're in a whole nother realm. And the thing is, older people don't have to necessarily be in that realm to give you advice. My oldest son, he got into dance. And I understood just from my own experiences in business that the people that are most successful are the ones that have a machine behind them. They got parents that love them, and hopefully those parents can take on certain roles that they need. Beyonce, her father, he was, I think, a lawyer or somebody who was expert in managing business. And it was through her being able to rely on him that they were able to become super successful, because she didn't have to pay him any money to do the managing, to do the negotiating. All she had to do was keep dancing and singing. That was it. So don't cut yourselves off like my son, because ultimately he got into a whole nother field of work that I know he's kind of happy that he's in it, because he's starting to see that he's about to become successful. He's starting to get a little traction in this field. But how much more traction and success he could have enjoyed had he just shut his mouth and did what I told him to do from the beginning. Because he's harnessing his talents and skills into not dance. He does that just to keep in shape and to be creative. But we'll see what happens as life goes forward. Talk to you guys soon.